Hi guys, I'm Anna, I'm an Australian, and I've been living in the States now for about a year and a half. And I've been saying I want to do a video like this since pretty much day one, so I figure why not today? Today I'm going to share with you guys the 10 biggest differences between Australia and the US I've noticed in my experience living here. Quick disclaimer, I understand that every state, every town in America is going to be different. So this is all just based on the 3 states that I've lived in here, the places I've visited, and the Americans that I've talked to. Also, I'm from Brisbane, Australia, so that might bias me that way, I guess. But yeah, the first 3 that I want to get out of the way are probably the most well-known differences, but they are still the things that stress me out the most anyway when coming here, so I figure I should cover them. But after that, I'm going to be going through all of the random little differences that I didn't expect. Number 1, money. It looks different. I know, duh. All money looks different, but the US money still stresses me out in particular because, well, one, there are way too many low-value coins that seem useless, and they don't even call them what they are. 1 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent, 25 cent. I think the only ones I actually use are quarters, 25 cents, and that's just because an absurd amount of places still seem to require them, and cash specifically for that matter, but that's another difference. Mainly, it stresses me out because it all looks the same. It's all green and pretty much the one size. So I'm still paranoid that I'm gonna be trying to tip $1 one day and I'll accidentally give 100 and not realize. I can't afford that mistake. And that brings me to number 2. Tipping and America's scary low wages. This was probably my number 1 biggest fear with coming here. I knew I was moving across the world for 6 months. That I was fine with. That's whatever. But the idea of having to tip a taxi driver for the first time coming from the airport terrified me. I was so scared I would say or do the wrong thing.
Thank you, got there, put it there.
But that being said, it's not that scary, guys. Please tip when you're here. It might be a shitty system, but you can't change it. I know of a lot of tourists that come here and they're like, oh, I'm on a tight budget, they'll never see me again. I'm just gonna not tip or just tip 5%. No, don't. Don't give the rest of us a bad name. Their wages are crazy low. I mean, I worked in retail for a bit and made $7.50 an hour. I didn't get tips. That's another story. Waiters, I'm pretty sure make lower than that and they make up that difference in tips. A lot of the time as well, the money you think you're giving to them doesn't go all to them. It'll be divided between the rest of the staff there, like busboys, maitre d's, stuff like that. So it's pretty important. Just be safe and
tip everyone, right?
Basically, with any service that they're at your service for a long period of time, tip 20%. But you can Google it. There's cut and dry rules. Tip, guys. Number 3. Sales tax. In the majority of states, the prices that you see on signs at shops and on items at shops is not actually the price that you'll pay. You pay more. Taxes are added on. Crazy. But I did say the majority of states. So if this puts you off that much, don't worry. Just live in one of the states that's tax-free. Number 4, the college social culture in general is a whole different world here. So I'm probably going to need another entire video of its own to talk about those differences. So for now, I'm just going to focus on the college sports element because it's huge here. I mean, it's crazy. Comparatively at home, it's not a thing. I know you can join sports at uni and there's uni games, but it's more recreational. Here, it's so big and so competitive. I mean, I went to school in the South here, so that was nuts. But adults out of college follow it religiously here. People bet on it. There's March Madness for basketball. That's it. Basketball. For football, there's a night of the week dedicated to it. I mean, Friday nights is high school football, Saturday nights is college football, and obviously Sundays is for the pros. It's crazy. Following on from that, as a prior non-sports enthusiast, a thing that stood out so bizarrely to me when I first got here was the sports TVs at bars. Like, no matter how fancy the place, there will always be at least one TV with a game playing on it at a bar. Check me on that. I know at home we obviously have TVs that play sports on them at bars, but I feel like more often than not it's a sports specific bar or pub. Here, every place, you can't escape it. And God help you if it's a sports bar specifically. Wall to wall flat screens. It's everywhere. Quick side note, if you are ever at a bar and you feel like a guy is staring too intently at you, don't be freaked out. He's probably just staring at a game behind you. That stereotype is for sure alive and well here. Number 6, on quite frankly a less fun note, disparity. There is a lot of it in the US. A lot of big cities have, for lack of better terminology, large, lower socioeconomic and homeless populations, which can lead to higher crime rates, and they can be in pockets throughout a city. So a lot of people refer to them as checkerboard cities. This basically just means that you can be on a really affluent street, walk a street over, and suddenly it's not. It's just a shady area to be in. And this is fine if you live there and you know this, but if you're traveling through, this can be quite dangerous. And a lot of Americans, I think, are kind of desensitized to it, so they might not mention it to you. And I'm actually guilty of this as well by this point.
We marginalize the homeless so much, and I think we categorize them and think of them as just homeless. And that's, of course, when you think about that, that's not the case.
And look, honestly, I don't want to scare you because it's not in every city, and honestly, it's more sad than it is scary. But basically just do your research before choosing your Airbnb. Number 7, and on a lighter, but still alarming note, the bathrooms here. This is for sure a first world bathrooms problem. But to start, there's no vacant/occupied sign on the door, so there's no way of knowing if someone's in there, other than maybe the giant gap between the door. But don't look through it, that's socially unacceptable. Except maybe if you happen to accidentally make eye contact with someone in the mirror, then that's fine. But it's also not, it's terrible. And that's just the cubicle exterior. You get inside and there's the super high water level where you're afraid if you sit or wipe too low, you'll touch the innards. And then you go to flush and there's no fancy buttons within arm's reach. Oh no. Even at the nicest places here, there'll often just be a lever or a handle at shin level. So I was told by girlfriends when I first got here, when we were sharing cubicles drinking, that you should never push it with your hand. You always just push it with your foot. So I don't know whether that's a thing, but now I know there are some Americans out there and me out there doing that. I definitely would recommend always doing that because nasty. Number 8, dressing casual. Other than maybe New York and LA nightclubs, in my experience, American girls dress super casually when going out here. At home, I feel like there's a lot of pressure for girls to go all out when they go out. You do like full face of makeup, full hair, high heels, super fashionable on-trend clothes always. Whereas here, I think girls are a little bit more conservative, a little bit more traditional, less fashion forward with their styling and how they go out. So I feel like we've got you beat.
She doesn't even go here.
But I prefer it here. It's exhausting going through all of that effort every time you go out, like even to the shops at home. I think people get more dressed up. And look, maybe I'm biased because I study fashion, so I could be hyper aware of it, and it could just be Brisbane from where I'm from. But I don't want that pressure. Like, I love it here because I think it's the best of both worlds. You don't have to get dressed up. You can just throw on like a t-shirt and jeans when going to a bar and still feel really cute. But if you want to get dressed up, then you can. I love it. That is a win for America in my mind. I love it. 9, healthy food. It's much harder to eat healthily here. It's not just that there are less healthy options. In general, they're also much more expensive. And I know at home they are too, but I feel like that's more for the organic stuff. Here, I'm just talking general fruit and veg. It's also much easier in general America to eat unhealthily. Like, there are so many processed food options that are dirt cheap, delicious, but really bad. Don't even get me started on canned cheese, sweetbread, fast food options. Those are all topics that warrant another video for another time. Number 10, confidence. I think on the whole, Americans are much more like assertive, confident, and just more forward than Australians. I know a lot of people stereotype this as being a bad thing, particularly them being loud.
What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of Americans?
Loud and
Loud.
loud.
Is it loud?
Pretty loud sometimes.
Loud. Everyone says loud.
Fake, disgusting news.
But I personally think this is a great thing, because I think you know where you stand with them, and you're a lot more free to speak your mind too. Being an introvert and being raised to just always be polite and not speak out of turn, I guess, I find myself caring a lot less now about what strangers think. So I remember seeing an Australian YouTuber who was talking about how shocked she was seeing people yelling out questions at Starbucks workers. I don't think I'd go as far to do that now. I'm not that confident.
I want a refund. Excuse me, I just spent $20. I want a refund.
But I definitely would go up and ask or complain if I have a problem.
And I will raise my voice. I'll let everybody in here know that this man is rude.
And right or wrong, I don't think I ever would have done that in the past. Now I don't care.
I'll be a jerk about it too.
Also, from a heterosexual female's perspective, guys are much more forward here. That's not to say that at a bar in Australia, guys won't approach you. They will. They'll just more so do it in packs, I think, and more in like a matey way. Here, guys don't have that issue. They have less boundaries.
Excuse me, can I touch you for a minute? Excuse me, can I touch you for a minute?
They act at least more self-confident, and they have no problem approaching you by themselves in any situation.
Where's your boyfriend?
Oh my,
Can I have your number? Can I have your number?
And this is on the whole, not every man in America is like this. So, I mean, a lot of people love this, a lot of people hate this. I think it just comes down to your own personality trait. I personally love it because I'm shy, so it makes it easier. But it was for sure a steep learning curve, that being said, because you need to learn to say no and say go away, I guess.
Thank you.
And also not to feel indebted to guys buying you drinks, because if nothing else, they're dirt cheap. That, though, is a story for another time, because, my friends, we have reached the end of the top 10 differences between Australia and America. Please let me know what you think. If you thought of anything that should have gone in this list, let me know, because I might make another video and add it in that for you. If you like this, please like it and subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye.